The first person Damien Volkov expected to see inside his enemy's mansion was an armed assassin. The last person he expected was his own secretary. She stood beneath an enormous crystal chandelier, calmly arranging files across a polished mahogany desk while dozens of heavily armed guards surrounded the room. No panic, no chains, no signs of struggle. She looked as though she belonged there. Damien lowered his rifle without realizing it. For 3 days, Evelyn Carter had vanished without a trace. Her apartment had been left untouched. Her phone was found shattered beside a deserted highway. One of Damien's convoys had been ambushed the same night. Every piece of evidence pointed toward one conclusion. She had betrayed him. His advisors believed it immediately. His captains demanded revenge. Only Damien had refused to believe the woman who had worked beside him for 4 years would suddenly sell his empire to his greatest enemy. Now, standing inside Victor Soren's heavily fortified estate, every doubt returned. The hidden surveillance camera transmitted a perfect image. Evelyn accepted a folder from Victor himself. She nodded politely, then she signed a document. Damien's oldest lieutenant quietly whispered beside him, "We should eliminate them both." Damien remained silent. He continued watching. Something felt wrong. Too wrong. Victor Soren never trusted outsiders. His mansion was considered impossible to infiltrate. Every employee passed years of background investigations. Yet Evelyn walked freely through rooms even Victor's senior commanders rarely entered. She wasn't acting like a prisoner. She wasn't acting like a spy either. She looked careful, as though every movement had been rehearsed. The surveillance feed shifted. Victor handed Evelyn a sealed black envelope. Instead of opening it, she quietly slipped it into her handbag. Then something unexpected happened. As she turned toward the hallway, her eyes briefly met the hidden security camera. For less than a second, she didn't react. She didn't expose it. Instead, she blinked twice. Slowly, Damien froze. 2 slow blinks. It was meaningless to everyone else, except him. Years earlier, during a hostage negotiation gone catastrophically wrong, Damien had quietly created emergency hand signals for trusted staff. 2 slow blinks meant only one thing. I'm being watched. Don't act. His lieutenant never noticed. Damien immediately closed the surveillance feed. Nobody fires. Confused faces filled the command room. But boss, I said nobody fires. Across the city, Evelyn carefully followed Victor Soren through endless marble corridors while suppressing every instinct telling her to run. For 72 hours she had lived inside enemy territory, not by choice, by necessity. 3 nights earlier she had been kidnapped before reaching home. But Victor hadn't tortured her. He hadn't demanded passwords. He hadn't threatened Damien. Instead, he showed her something. Financial records, bank transfers, old photographs, classified contracts. Enough evidence to destroy the Volkov empire forever. At first she believed every document was fabricated, until she recognized signatures. Real signatures. People she personally worked with every day. Someone inside Damien's organization had secretly financed Victor's operation for years. Someone close. Someone powerful. Victor wanted one thing in return. Silence. If she stayed quietly inside the mansion, innocent employees working throughout the Volkov organization would remain alive. If she escaped, they would die. Every hour she delayed gave Damien more time to unknowingly prepare for a trap. But every attempt to warn him was monitored. Except the camera. She had gambled everything on one forgotten emergency signal. Now she could only hope Damien remembered it. That night, Victor hosted a private gathering inside the mansion. Crime bosses from 5 countries arrived under heavy security. The purpose remained secret. Damien made a decision every advisor called suicidal. He entered the mansion himself, disguised as one of Victor's invited financiers. No army, no armored convoy, only one concealed pistol and years of surviving impossible situations. The banquet hall glittered with wealth. Politicians laughed beside international smugglers. Corporate executives toasted notorious cartel leaders. Every smile concealed another conspiracy. Then Damien saw Evelyn again. She carried a tray of champagne through the crowded hall. As she passed him, neither acknowledged the other. To everyone watching, they were strangers. But as she set one glass onto a nearby table, Her fingers quietly slipped a folded piece of paper beneath his sleeve. She never slowed, never looked back. Damien continued walking until he reached an empty balcony overlooking the estate gardens. Only then did he unfold the note. 5 handwritten words. Trust no one beside you. His pulse slowed. The message wasn't warning him about Victor. It was warning him about someone already inside his own empire. Before he could destroy the note, the mansion lights suddenly went dark. The celebration dissolved into confusion. Emergency generators failed. Gunfire erupted from multiple floors simultaneously. Guests scrambled for cover. Explosions shattered reinforced windows. Victor's own soldiers began shooting one another. The attack wasn't coming from outside. It had started inside the mansion. Night vision goggles illuminated dozens of masked operatives flooding through the darkness. None wore Victor's insignia. None belonged to Damien. A third organization had entered the war. Within seconds, every security system across the estate locked automatically. Steel barriers slammed shut over every exit. No one could escape. In the chaos, Damien searched desperately for Evelyn. She had vanished. Only the black envelope Victor had given her remained on the marble floor. He picked it up. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Damien standing beside his late father 20 years earlier. Someone else stood in the background. A young girl. The image had been circled in red. On the back, one sentence was written in neat black ink. Your secretary was never hired by coincidence. As another explosion shook the mansion, Damien realized a woman he had trusted with every secret in his empire might have entered his life long before either of them ever knew. But the question that chilled him most wasn't whether Evelyn had lied. It was this, who had placed her beside him, and why had they waited years to make their move? Emergency lights barred Victor Soren's mansion in flashes of crimson as automatic lockdown doors sealed every corridor. The lavish estate transformed into a fortress within seconds. Guests who had arrived wearing tailored suits now crawled across polished marble floors, desperately searching for cover while gunfire echoed through the halls. Damien Volkov slipped behind a stone column, gripping the black envelope tighter than his pistol. The photograph inside refused to leave his mind. A little girl, standing beside his father, years before Evelyn had supposedly entered his company. It wasn't a coincidence. Someone had planned this long before either of them understood it. Across the mansion, Evelyn ran through smoke-filled corridors with 2 armed guards chasing close behind. She wasn't escaping Victor's men. She was escaping the mysterious attackers who had stormed the estate. The third organization moved with terrifying discipline. Their soldiers ignored expensive artwork, hidden vaults, and terrified politicians. They executed only one objective: capture Evelyn alive. Anyone who stood in their way was eliminated without hesitation. Victor finally understood the truth. They are not here for my empire, he muttered. They are here for her. His realization came too late. A sniper's bullet shattered the armored glass behind him, narrowly missing his head. His own commanders began falling one after another. Someone inside the mansion was transmitting their exact positions. There was another traitor. Meanwhile, Damien silently navigated through maintenance passages he had memorized from stolen blueprints years earlier. He ignored the firefight surrounding him. He searched only for Evelyn. He finally found her inside an abandoned library. Books littered the floor. Smoke drifted through broken windows. For a long moment, neither moved. 3 days of unanswered questions stood between them. Damien kept his weapon lowered. You disappeared. I had to. They think you betrayed me. I know. Did you? The silence that followed hurt more than any answer. Evelyn slowly removed a small encrypted flash drive from inside her jacket and placed it on the table between them. I disappeared to stop someone from destroying your empire. Before Damien could reach for it, the library doors exploded inward. Masked soldiers flooded the room. Without exchanging another word, Damien and Evelyn fought side by side. Years of working together made every movement instinctive. She anticipated his decisions before he gave orders. He trusted her positioning without question. One attacker rushed toward Damien's blind side. Evelyn intercepted him with remarkable speed, knocking the rifle aside before firing a single precise shot. Another squad attempted to surround them. Damien overturned an antique bookshelf, creating a barricade while leading them toward a hidden passage. Neither noticed they had begun trusting each other again. Not completely. but enough to survive. As they escaped deeper into the mansion, Evelyn finally revealed the truth. Victor never kidnapped me. Damien stopped walking. What? He rescued me. His expression hardened. She forced herself to continue. The convoy attack wasn't organized by Victor. Then who? The people hunting us now. She handed him the flash drive. Inside were years of financial records, secret communications, surveillance reports. One name appeared repeatedly. Adrian Volkov, Damien's uncle, the man who had helped raise him after his father's death, the man who had served as advisor to the Volkov Empire for nearly 20 years. Every shipment, every failed operation, every assassination attempt, every leak, it all led back to Adrian. Damien felt the ground disappear beneath him. His uncle hadn't admitted betrayed him. He had built an entirely separate criminal network while secretly weakening the Volkov family from within. Victor Sorn had discovered the conspiracy months earlier. Instead of exploiting it, he had secretly tried warning Evelyn because he knew Damien would never believe the accusation without proof. Before either could process the revelation, every phone inside the mansion activated simultaneously. A familiar face appeared on every screen. Adrian. He smiled calmly. My dear nephew. His voice echoed throughout the estate. You finally reached the truth. The attack on Victor's mansion. The rivalry between the two empires. Even Evelyn's employment years earlier. Every piece had been arranged by him. He had placed Evelyn inside Damien's company as an inexperienced secretary, expecting her to unknowingly provide access to sensitive information. Instead, she became fiercely loyal to Damien. She never realized she had been manipulated until Victor uncovered the truth. Adrian's smile faded. Unfortunately, loyalty has become inconvenient. The screen switched off. At that exact moment, explosions ripped through the mansion's support columns. The building began collapsing. Everyone inside, Damien's men, Victor's soldiers, and the mysterious attackers, was forced into the central courtyard. For the first time in history, three powerful criminal organizations faced one another under the same burning sky. Gunfire ceased. Engines roared. A convoy of black armored limousines entered through the shattered front gates. Adrian stepped out. Dozens of elite soldiers surrounded him. He looked neither frightened nor horrid. He looked victorious. Victor saw and slowly lowered his weapon. Damien did the same. Both men realized they had spent years fighting the wrong enemy. Adrian addressed them with effortless confidence. While both of you fought over territory, I built an empire hidden beneath yours. He revealed banking networks stretching across continents, private armies loyal only to him, politicians secretly under his control. The Volkov Empire and the Sorin Syndicate had unknowingly financed his rise. Everything they believed they owned had become part of his plan. Then Adrian pointed directly at Evelyn. Bring her to me. No one moved. He smiled again. You still don't understand who she is. He revealed the final piece. Years ago, Damien's father had secretly promised to protect the daughter of a trusted ally after exposing Adrian's corruption. That child was Evelyn. To keep her alive, her identity was erased, and she was quietly placed into Damien's company under a false name, where she would be hidden in plain sight until the truth could one day surface. Adrian had searched for her ever since, not because she possessed hidden wealth, not because she belonged to a rival family, because she was the only living witness capable of proving he had murdered Damien's father. As the courtyard erupted into another exchange of gunfire, Damien stepped in front of Evelyn without hesitation. Across from him, Victor saw and unexpectedly ordered his own soldiers to do the same. The two rival Mafia bosses stood shoulder to shoulder for the first time, not as allies by choice, but because the woman between them carried a truth powerful enough to destroy the man who had manipulated them all. And somewhere beyond the burning mansion, Adrian was already activating the final phase of a plan that threatened to wipe both empires off the map before sunrise. The courtyard disappeared beneath smoke as Adrian Volkov's private army unleashed its final assault. Missiles tore through the mansion's outer walls. Black SUVs burst through burning gates while elite soldiers flooded the ground from every direction. The centuries-old estate that had witnessed decades of secret alliances collapsed into chaos. Damien Volkov and Victor Sorn exchanged a single look. Years of hatred ended without a handshake. There was only one enemy left. Together, their soldiers formed a defensive line around Evelyn while civilians and wounded guards escaped through underground tunnels. Adrian had expected two rival empires to destroy one another. Instead, he faced a combined strength of both. The battle spread across the estate. Victor's snipers controlled the rooftops. Damien's assault teams pushed through the gardens. Adrian's mercenaries answered with military precision, turning every corridor into a deadly trap. Yet despite his overwhelming force, Adrian grew impatient. He wanted only one thing: Evelyn. She remained the only surviving witness who could expose how he had orchestrated the assassination of Damien's father, manipulated both criminal organizations, and secretly financed years of bloodshed to build his own empire. As the fighting intensified, Evelyn remembered something Victor had shown her during her captivity: a hidden server room beneath the mansion. Every financial transfer, every encrypted conversation, every murder order, every payment to corrupt officials, all stored in one secure archive. If the evidence survived, Adrian's empire would collapse even if he escaped. Ignoring the bullets around her, Evelyn slipped into the underground passage while Damien unknowingly fought to keep the attackers away from a main entrance. Minutes later, she found the reinforced vault. Steel doors, biometric locks, encrypted servers humming in darkness. She connected the flash drive Victor had entrusted to her. The system unlocked immediately. Thousands of classified files appeared. Instead of destroying them, she transmitted everything simultaneously to international investigators, financial crime agencies, and dozens of investigative journalists whose secure contact addresses Victor had secretly preserved for exactly this moment. Within seconds, encrypted confirmation messages appeared. The files had been copied. There was no way to erase them now. At that same moment, Adrian burst into the server room with a squad of elite bodyguards. His calm expression finally cracked. "You have no idea what you've done." Evelyn stood her ground. For the first time in years. "I do." Adrian reached for his weapon. Before he could fire, Damien crashed through the damaged doorway. The confrontation that followed needed no speeches. Years of betrayal, years of manipulation, years of grief. Everything ended in one relentless fight through the burning control room. Adrian fought with the desperation of a man watching his entire world disappear. Damien fought with the determination of someone who had finally learned the truth about his father's death. The battle ended when Adrian attempted to trigger explosives hidden beneath the mansion. Victor, arriving only seconds later, shot the detonator from Adrian's hand before it could activate, cornered from every side. Adrian made one final attempt to escape through an emergency tunnel. He never reached it. Outside, police special units and international task forces surrounded the estate. The evidence Evelyn had released reached authorities faster than Adrian had expected. His own escape routes were already blocked. The man who had manipulated empires for decades was arrested before sunrise. His private banks were frozen. His shell companies were seized. His closest allies turned on one another in exchange for reduced sentences. Within weeks, the criminal network he had spent 20 years building no longer existed. The consequences reached far beyond one arrest. Government officials resigned, financial institutions launched investigations. Dozens of hidden trafficking operations and money laundering networks were dismantled using the records recovered from the mansion. For the first time in years, the underworld lost one of its most dangerous puppet masters. Victor saw and accepted responsibility for the crimes committed under his organization during the conflict and withdrew from the ruthless expansion that had fueled years of violence his rivalry with. Damien no longer served any purpose. The war that had consumed both empires had been built on lies. Damien changed in quieter ways. For years he had ruled through fear, convinced that suspicion was the only path to survival. To Evelyn's loyalty forced him to confront the cost of that belief. Trust was not weakness. That IT was the one thing Adrian had never been able to understand. Months later, the Volkov headquarters looked different. Weapons had not disappeared. The dangers surrounding the Empire had not vanished overnight. But the endless cycle of betrayal had finally been broken. Evelyn no longer sat outside Damien's office taking notes as an overlooked secretary. She became his closest strategic advisor, the one person willing to challenge his decisions instead of simply obeying them. Their relationship was no longer defined by hidden signals, secret files, or unanswered questions. It was built on honesty earned through survival. The photograph that had started everything found its place inside Damien's private study. For years, he had looked at it searching for betrayal. Now he understood its real meaning. Some people are placed in your life by manipulation. Others choose to stay despite it.